Good Thursday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Well, we made it over the hump, and we're in the home stretch toward the weekend. Of course, you have your news headlines coming up on this Thursday. Have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you're part of my conversation with award-winning author Sylvia Dickey Smith. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Thursday headlines. In national news, Oklahoma judge rules a man who wrongfully spent nearly 50 years in prison for murder is innocent. An Oklahoma judge has exonerated a man who spent nearly 50 years in prison for murder, the longest-serving inmate to be declared innocent of a crime. Glenn Simmons, 71, who was released in July after prosecutors agreed the key evidence in his case was not turned over to his defense lawyers, was ruled innocent this week. This court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the offense for which Mr. Simmons was convicted, sentenced, and imprisoned was not committed by Mr. Simmons, according to the ruling by the Oklahoma County District Judge. Simmons spent 48 years, 1 month, and 18 days since its conviction, making him the longest imprisoned U.S. inmate to be exonerated, according to data kept by the National Registry of Exonerations. Simmons said afterwards that he feels vindicated after his time in prison that included initially being sentenced to death row. It's a lesson in resilience and tenacity, Simmons said during a brief news conference following the ruling. Don't let nobody tell you that exoneration can't happen, because it really can. Simmons has maintained his innocence, saying he was in Louisiana at the time of the 1974 slaying of Carolyn Sue Rogers inside of a liquor store. He and a co-defendant were both convicted in 1975 of the murder and initially sentenced to death. Their sentences were reduced to life in prison in 1977 after the U.S. Supreme Court rulings related to capital punishment. Roberts was released on parole in 2008. In more national news, Colorado Supreme Court declares Donald Trump is ineligible for the White House. A divided Colorado Supreme Court on Tuesday declared former President Donald Trump ineligible for the White House under the U.S. Constitution's insurrection clause and removed him from the state's presidential primary ballot, setting up a likely showdown in the nation's highest court to decide whether the frontrunner for the GOP nomination can remain in the race. The decision from a court whose justices were all appointed by Democratic governors marks the first time in history that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. A majority of the court holds that Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the court wrote in its 4-3 decision. Colorado's highest court overturned a ruling from a district court judge who found that Trump incited an insurrection for his role in the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, but said he could not be barred from the ballot because it was unclear that the provision was intended to cover the presidency. The court stayed its decision until January the 4th, or until the U.S. Supreme Court rules on the case. Colorado officials say the issue must be settled by January 5th, the deadline for the state to print its presidential primary ballots. In a related story, Trump's lawyers asked Supreme Court to stay out of dispute on whether he is immune from prosecution. Lawyers for former President Donald Trump urged the U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday to stand down from a dispute over whether he can be prosecuted on charges he plotted to overturn the 2020 election results. Special counsel Jack Smith's team last week urged the nation's high court to take up and quickly consider Trump's claims that he enjoys immunity from prosecution as a former president. The unusual request for a speedy ruling seemed designed to prevent any delays that could postpone the trial of the 2024 Republican presidential primary frontrunner, currently set to begin March 4th, until after next year's presidential election. But Trump's lawyers told the Supreme Court that there was no reason for them to take up the matter now, especially because a lower appeals court in Washington is already considering the same question and has scheduled arguments for January the 9th. In entertainment news, AP's top music documentaries of 2023, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Wham, and more, and where you can watch. Looking for something to watch this holiday season, says the Associated Press? While Barbenheimer is enticing, 2023 was a great year for documentaries, particularly music documentaries, with titles that span the biggest names in the business to consider studies of small independent music communities. Among those to watch, Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, Thriller 40, The Elephant Six Recording Company, Little Richard's I Am Everything, all available on streaming services. And finally, in business news, Wall Street drifts following strong economic data but disappointing profit reports. Wall Street's monster-sized rally since Halloween is easing off the accelerator on Wednesday following mixed reports showing disappointing profits at companies but unexpected strength for the economy. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Thursday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. Man may base your value on what he sees on the outside. Realize this truth. The real essence of who you are begins on the inside and manifests itself in the way you choose to live. So let's get to it. Have an amazing Thursday. We are part of my conversation coming up with award-winning author Sylvia Dickey Smith in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with Entertainment Spotlight. Award-winning author Sylvia Dickey Smith rejoined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about her remarkable success as a storyteller. Here's a bit of our conversation.
Sylvia, thank you again for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cyrus. I've been looking forward to it. I always enjoy meeting and talking with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and we're glad to be able to have you on our radio side, too, in my home state here in Mississippi, as well as online. Sylvia, you have had such a remarkable writing career, and what I love about it is you've been able to give us different types of characters, tackle different types of topics. What has that been like for you to look at your literary journey, and what it's been like for you to have had the career you've had so far?
Oh, it has been unbelievable. I have just really resonated with it. I started late in life, and so that takes away anyone's excuse about being too old to start. And I had a friend who said, I kept saying, well, one of these days I'll probably write a book. And I was at retirement age then, and she told me to sit my you-know-what in the chair and do it. Stop talking about it. And that got me going. And I started on a true story, fictionalized, and you're familiar with that one, I think, Dance on His Grave. And
right.
It just went from there. I thought, well, I'll write this one book, and I sent it to an agent. And she said, great, send me the synopsis of 2 more so we can sell it as a series. And I really felt I don't have anything left. But you know what? It's hidden in there. We do have it.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversation Daily News, but I got on tomorrow to wrap up this week. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversation Daily News today. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.